Hi guys, and welcome back to Unit 3 of our improvisation course. In this unit we're going to be looking at a major pentatonic box, how that differs from the minor, using that and adding some more techniques. In this lesson we're going to look at adding the first two, kind of three notes to this major box and looking at some vibrato. So when you're ready, grab your guitar and let's get going.
Now, if you're ready to commit to your guitar progress, then head on over to the YJ Club to get full access to every single course, as well as complete customized pathways, moving tab and speed builder, our progress tracking, an amazing student community, and monthly reviews with our mentors. Give all of this a go with our 14-day free trial, and your future guitar self will thank you.
So that was the track we're going to be playing over. It's in the key of G major. So in Unit 2, we looked at a minor box. Now we're going to look at a major, and they're going to differ quite a lot, and you have to be careful when trying to use them both together. We're going to look at that in Unit 4. So we need to find a G note, and I'm going to look for it on the A string. So just to recap kind of stuff that we've done, A is our starting note of the musical alphabet. So A, there's a gap between A and B, so it goes A sharp, which we learned in the last unit, to a B. Then B to C, there is no gap, so it goes straight to C. C, there's a gap to D, so that's C, C sharp, D. D, there's a gap to E, D, D sharp, E. There's no gap between E and F now, so E to F. F to G, there is a gap, so it's F, F sharp, G. Okay, so we're G on the 10th fret of the A string. This is where we're going to kind of form our bass and look at building this shape here. Okay, so the first interval we're going to add is the major second, which looks like this. So you can see this is a fret below the minor third that we looked at before. So minor third was there, which was 2 frets below on next string over. Now this second is 3 frets below a next string over, so 1 fret behind that minor third or that flat third. There's a second interval, and then we have a third interval, so a major third now. We have our minor third. Major third is going to be there. Next string over, 1 fret below is what that major third is going to look like. Versus the minor third, which was next string over 2 frets below. So now we've got major third, minor third, and the second. All very different intervals. And just to recap, an interval was a musical distance. So major third is the name of a specific musical distance, as is a second as well. So these are the 2 notes we're going to use for the minute. The technique we're going to talk about adding, you'll have seen me do it up to this point because it's such a natural part of my playing, is vibrato, which is getting any of these notes on any of your fingers to wobble. And it kind of is more like singing a little bit. You know, when we're singing notes, we typically put a natural bit of vibrato on them. And this is just kind of replicating that on the guitar. You'll have seen violin players or any other string instruments shaking their fingers or their strings. This is the same thing. So it looks like it should be easy to do, but actually, if you've not done it much before, it's quite difficult to get it natural. The first thing is a lot of people end up doing loads of hand movement, but actually not much of that movement gets transferred onto the string. So the hand moves loads, the string doesn't, and the note barely kind of moves relative to how much the hand's shaking around. Instead of this kind of up and down motion, far more is to think of it like these micro bends. So the string is just wobbling back and forth in this motion along the neck. One way I've heard people describe it is if you imagine a doorknob, you're moving that, you kind of take that between the thumb and the finger that you're doing, and it's this small motion trying to impart that onto the string. So a little bit like that. Don't think of it quite so sideways, and more kind of round the front and back of the neck. And you can practice just holding this note, any of these notes, and getting them to just sing the way you want them, just vibrate that way. And you see I'm doing it on my first finger, and then it feels a little bit different on my third finger, and then again different on the pinky for all of these intervals. Okay, once you've got that, let's listen to how these intervals sound over the chords of the track. So we've got quite like a spacious, spacey kind of sound. There's not all that many chords, so we can really hear how these intervals interact. So we'll start with our major root, the 4. You know, it's a root note, so much like in the minor, it's still going to sound good. Okay, let's go to the second now. You can hear it's seeking resolution, but works on that third chord that's already part of that chord. Okay, we try the third. Works on this chord, works on that chord, and there's a tension, it's seeking resolution on the third chord, and then we go back to our root. So that is the color of all those intervals across those chords. What we're going to try is a little bit of improvising just with these. And of course, you're going to use all the techniques we've looked at so far, hammer-ons, pull-offs, bends, with the inclusion of this vibrato technique now for these kind of long-held notes. You're not going to be able to do this vibrato on fast passages, but anytime you're holding a note, which works quite nicely over this kind of spacey track. So hammer-ons and pull-offs, you can start training your eye for where you can connect notes on the same string easily. Just replace picking them with a hammer-on or a pull-off, and that same kind of idea. Now a bend, here we've got a half-tone bend, which is the equivalent of 1 fret, right? So before it was full tone, which was the note up 2 frets. Half tone is going to be the equivalent of 1 fret. So your target note, we're bending here from the 9th fret. Our target is the note on this 10th. And now I really want to start getting used to like bending in and holding a note with vibrato. And for the really adventurous players out there, you can try vibratoing your bends, which are very difficult. Maybe start on that half tone and then back in that minor. You can try a full tone vibrato, which is tough. Okay, and again, when we're talking about bends, we kind of really have an extra note, but we're not going to talk about that too much because it's not quite in the pentatonics that we're building yet. But just know that this bend is going to work all the time in these major keys, so you can experiment with where you like it, what chords you like it over, all that stuff. So let's have a listen to me improvising, trying to take some of these things together, and then we'll do some guided stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you can hear, the track really kind of points towards these nice little long notes, holding these intervals and exploring them over just a simple 3-chord tracking loop here. There was a lot of mixing of syncopations. Now this is straight, so we're thinking of those straight 8th notes again. So those syncopations, long held notes on those syncopations, and then into some of those faster chainings of hammer-ons and pull-offs. Now that this major shape is kind of focusing a lot on the pinky on our root note, it kind of as an excuse or a chance to build up a strength on different kind of finger sets as you're doing these hammer-ons and pull-offs. Again, it's flashy, it's really cool looking, and it sounds great. It's not all that hard to do. It's just building up the speed, the confidence, and the strength. But it's just a little repetitive motion. So let's try some guided stuff now, looking to include all the stuff we've got under our fingers so far. So we'll start with a held 3rd note, 2, 3, 4. Vibrato. Then I like this half tone bend to bring it up and then back into that held note. Now here on this 3rd chord, our 2nd's going to sound really good, as is the half tone bend. We hear the half tone bend over the 1st chord, sounds a little like it wants to resolve. And then back to that 3rd chord. So we're seeing that the root and the 3rd are sounding in for the major first. And then the root 3rd and the half tone bend sound good on our 2nd chord. And our 3rd chord, we're thinking about the 2nd and the half tone bend. Don't forget, you can repeat notes to emphasize them. Little hammer-ons to your melodic notes. So I'm always thinking about, this is my target note, and just add a little bit of color. I'm just going to hammer on top of that, just adds a little bit. And then I went to a bend to go to the other side of it. See the ways I'm exploring getting around this target note for all these chords before coming to this target note for the 2nd chord. So major 3rd over the 1st and the 2nd chords, major 3rd here, major 3rd, down to the 2nd, then the 3rd or the root. And I'm going to explore how many different ways I can get rhythmically and melodically to frame the target notes on each chord. There's a little repeated. And then think about your syncopations, just to vary it. Repeated. The repeated phrase that I'm just trying to manipulate the rhythm. A little different melodic idea that I'm going to explore. It's always good to kind of express this melodic idea across all the chords and see how the color is going to change. You know, we've only got 3 notes, 4 if we count the half tone bend, but there's so much melodic potential that you can get into these fast hammer-on pull-offs. So really, it's all about your imagination. When we strip back these notes, you have to really be inventive. And then playing around with the idea, this little descending melody. So half tone bend, 3rd, 2nd, root. And then playing around with how I'm getting from just that same idea, those notes. Playing around with ham-ons, pull-offs. So some ideas in there for you to play around over this different tonality, the different color really changes, I think, the way you approach it when the style of the track's really different, when the key or the tonality is really different. So things around for you there to play with. When you're ready, come join me in the next lesson. I'll see you then.